the script was flipped from one game to the next, and now, Gus, the mission for New South Wales is to somehow get close to replicating what they had unfold there.
Yes, we've seen this movie plenty of times before, haven't we? You can forget what's happened now in games 1 and 2 because we now go to a decider in Queensland. It's a completely different beast. People will have written Queensland off. Everyone will write them off prior to the game, and that's exactly where Queensland like to be. I don't know that the recovery is going to be as easy this time, though, because that was fairly emphatic the other night, and there was simply a class difference between the two sides. Now, in saying that, I said leading into the game that Queensland have a history of being a bit soft in game 2 when they've won game 1 and they know they've got the safety net of the decider in Queensland for game 3. Queensland were soft and New South Wales were outstanding, and at this level that's just enough to produce the half of football that we saw. I don't think Queensland can take any respite from the second half, even though they scored a couple of tries. I think New South Wales took their foot off the pedal. But if half-time didn't come, it wasn't going to stop. Only half-time stopped the momentum of that first half, and the class of the halves, Mitchell Moses and Jerome Luai, was there for all to see. I thought Dylan Edwards at the back was outstanding. When your spine plays like that and brings together these athletes, it was just too hard for Queensland to handle. Queensland had defensive deficiencies all over the field that just were not exposed in game 1. It was a much stronger looking New South Wales side. There is no doubting that Mitch Moses made a huge difference to it.
I think he did, but I still think the middle forwards are unbelievable. Payne Haas was brilliant. Angus Crichton. Look, I thought Angus Crichton or Payne Haas could have been man of the match. I know Mitchell Moses was great. He steered the team around the park, did what he had to do, and had a 4-try assist in the game. Played great. I'm not taking anything away from him, but I just feel those big boys in the middle of the field totally dominated the Queensland pack, which allowed Moses the time to do what he did. So I think those guys probably deserve more credit than what they're getting. And that's just, obviously I was a forward back in the day, so I want to say that. But I mean, I think Mitchell Moses doesn't have the game he has without the forwards dominating the middle.
Gal, you've been in that position, trying to win up there. How hard is it? What is it? I've never experienced that. Like, most people haven't experienced that. What's it like to run on the field, trying to win a big game up there?
Look, it's a great experience, first of all. It's a great thing to be able to do. But
you want the result.
The result. Look, I unfortunately never won a decider up there. There's only been 2 teams in Origin history to do it, 94 and I think 05 was the other one. Look, the boys have got to bring it back down to their preparation. They've got to prepare well, do everything they can to prepare well, leave no stone unturned. Don't think what happened in game 2 is going to happen again, because it won't. And I think they're, as Gus said, that everyone's going to write the Queenslanders off from here, which is exactly the position they want to be in. I think New South Wales will be smart enough. They'll know that. They'll leave no stone unturned in their preparation. And that's what they've just got to bring it back to, their preparation. Prepare well, get to the night as healthy and as fit as they possibly can, and go out there and win the battle in the middle of the field. If they do that, they can win. I've got no doubt they can win. They should be confident. When you look at game 1, you take out the first 5 minutes of game 1, Queensland got the jump on another better side. They scored first with 13 on the field. Then it got down to 12 men, and then they scored quickly. It took New South Wales too long to adjust to the 12-men situation. But then the rest of it, probably up until 10 to 15 minutes to go in the game, they were the better team. At 20 points to 10, had they scored, made it 20 points to 16, you never know what might have happened down to 12 men that entire time. They go out game 2, they dominate game 2. So I think they should be pretty confident going into game 3.
Gus, 94 was it? Was that when you went up there?
Yep.
And did it? What's the key? What's the secret?
The 94 team was a very special team. That was the 3rd year in a row that we won the series. So that team had been building over 2 or 3 years. It had a great rapport, wonderful players. Game 1 of that series, we nearly had one here in Sydney at the Sydney Football Stadium, and that was the Mark Coyne Miracle Try Night, where they scored 2 tries in the last 5 minutes and pipped us on the bell. We had to go to Melbourne like they've done this year and win down there. We did 14-0. And then we went up to Queensland for a decider, and it was Mal Meninga's last ever game for Queensland. So it was a big event at the old Lang Park, and New South Wales had never won a decider there, but we had a very, very good side, great leaders, and we went up there and we won pretty handsomely. Over the years, there's been any number of times where New South Wales have been dominant in game 2, gone to Queensland in game 3, and not just lost, been shellacked, just not handled the situation. It is a different environment. You don't really experience true Origin until you've played it in Queensland, against Queensland, and the decider, there's no good saying one thing and meaning another. It's just different. And until you've actually experienced it, it's hard to explain or to understand. At the end of the day, though, for all what the crowd can do, what the media can do, and who they can do it to, as long as they don't jump the fence, they can't affect what happens between the sidelines and the try lines, and that's where your head needs to be. It really needs to be there in between, in those lanes, and concentrating on your job and getting it done and keeping your togetherness. That sounds like an easy explanation. It's not easy under the pressure that they will apply up there.
Particularly the noise, Gus.
Yeah.
That's when I talk about preparation, how important your preparation is, and knowing what the bloke next to you is going to do and knowing what set you're up to, because it's so loud out there. You're flat out hearing the bloke next to you on the field. It's not like Melbourne. I remember playing in Melbourne, game 2, 2015, and we were pretty dominant that game too, won quite convincingly, but you could hear everyone. You could hear the field quite easily. We went up there game 3. We weren't overconfident. We had a really good preparation, and they hammered us. That was one of their moments. They put 40 or 50 on us. They smashed us. But I remember the noise that night. We couldn't hear. You couldn't hear anything on the field. It was so loud. We didn't cope with it, and they obviously got the victory. But I feel like there's a number of players from New South Wales who haven't experienced that from this team. But there's also a number of Queenslanders that haven't experienced it either. They got their strong spine that have been there before. But there's probably 5, 6 players in that side that have not been in this environment either. So I feel it's a pretty even keel going up there for both teams.
I think one tip I learned from coaching, I learned it very early in Origin, going to Queensland for any game, let alone a decider, was to get your preparation over with here in Sydney, not to go up there and expecting a captain's run or a final training session is going to get you any further towards where you want to be in that session. You need to get it finished here in Sydney. Of course, you're going to go out and experience Suncorp Stadium, or the old Lang Park as it was. But the only reason I would take the team there the day before game day was to go and practice our warm-up, to do exactly what we were going to do in the sheds, because you can't go out on the field. So we would just go out, not to train, but just to practice the warm-up. We were going to use the night. So it all was very familiar to them so that we could hit the field and know where we're going. What will happen is you go up there for a captain's run, you think you've got a private session, you haven't.
Someone's watching something.
Every man and his dog is watching the session. There's media all over the field. They'll have markings on the field where you can't go. They'll do everything in Queensland right from the time you land, at the baggage handlers, at the buses, at everywhere. There'll be traffic roads, there'll be roadblocks. They'll do whatever they can to make your life uncomfortable while you're there. They do nothing for you.
Home ground advantage. It's the beauty of it.
Am I allowed to say that?
Of course you are, because it's all about
Queensland. It's all about Queensland. That's what it is.
Take that show on the road.
Get yourselves ready down here. Don't worry about getting ready up there.
Don't forget to print your shirts while you're at it, Queenslanders, as well. I've got to ask the changes, the expected ones. Obviously, no Xavier Coates now for Queensland. On top of that, too, there's a lot of rumblings about David Fafita as a must to return.
Yeah, well, he's probably going to come back in on the bench. The other one's Selwyn Cobbo. Look, he was left out of the side for some reason. I don't really buy into exactly what they said the reason was, but he'll probably come back into consideration. When you think about the Queensland side, they've got Tino, Flegler, Ponga, Gilbert and Munster are out. They're unavailable. So when you think about elite players from Queensland, they haven't got a hell of a lot to pick from. Probably Selwyn Cobbo, David Fafita, maybe Cam Pereira. I think he's a Queenslander. So they're sort of running out a little bit, but I think Cobbo comes back into it without a doubt, and David Fafita's probably got to be there. So they're probably the only ones I can really think of.
Why didn't they pick him for the first couple, though? For Fafita?
Oh, I've got no idea. Don't know. They're Queenslanders, ask them. They pick and stick, don't they?
You sound like Billy.
They do.
It's just that sort of cockiness that they love.
That's what they said.
They're Queenslanders.
That's what they said.
Yeah. You don't remind them until after it's over. Yeah, we've got another round of football to get through. There'll be injuries and suspensions this weekend. I've known them to pick blokes out of Queensland Cup. They don't care. They'll just put that jersey on them and they'll be ready to go. I don't care who they pick. I don't know who they're going to pick. I don't know. It's not in the selection room where they need to solve what happened the other night.
Yep.
All right? And I think the more players that get the chance to do it again and get redemption to wash that one away, the more effective they're going to be. I don't think Queensland can arrest that in the selection room.